The original story that I'm basing this assignment off of, I got from my mom. I called her and I told her to give me a story that had some sort of moral, and that's the only direction I gave her. And she gave me the story that happened recently with my sister and brother. She sent my sister and brother to the store, told them they can pick what's for dinner, just go get what is needed. My sister is 19 and my brother is 17. Um, so they are excited. They get to pick dinner. They're going to go get it. They're going to be adult like and go buy what they need and, do it all on their own. And I guess they get to the store and decide that they aren't wanting the same thing for dinner. So they sat there and argued for 30 minutes in the parking lot about what they were going to have for dinner because Steven wanted chicken because he's been working out and wants protein. Rachel wants pasta because that's her favorite meal is pasta. So they fight and they bicker and they call my mom because they're having a knockdown, drag out type of fight over dinner. And my mom tells them, I'm not dealing with this, come up with a compromise, figure it out. Hangs up. They're 19 and 17. They should be able to figure this one out. And so they decide they have to come up with a compromise. What kind of compromise? How could they get both of their needs met with one dinner and stop fighting about it? So they ended up coming up with chicken Alfredo, typical chicken Alfredo. Steven got his chicken and his protein. Rachel got her pasta. Everybody was happy. The new version I made of this, it was kind of hard because this was like not a super intriguing story. But I know my siblings, so I was able to kind of like make somewhat of a new version that is more grim. More of a grim version. So my version would contain two siblings who are, instead of 19 and 17, they would be 10 and 12. And I chose this age because Grimm brothers, they usually like have children in their stories and in their versions of things, and I've noticed that like it's more geared towards children too. So I wanted to make, instead of 19 and 17, because that's at that like young adult adolescent phase, I wanted to get it where it's more like the child adolescent phase. And then, so what they're going to be left with the task of doing is their mom's going to tell them to go travel to Fairy Stop, which Fairy Stop's like a little magical destination that is owned by a fairy and houses magical items that are for sale. So, a bunch of different magical items that have different magical powers. And the mom wants them to go there and get a tool that will help them build their magic treehouse because Steven and Rachel are wanting to build a magic treehouse really bad. And so they get there, they're looking around, they're looking at all the tools and trying to decide what's going to be the best tool to get because they only have enough funds for one. They can only get one tool. And so Steven's in charge of building the treehouse and Rachel's in charge of decorating the treehouse. So they're looking through the tools, and Steven has his eyes on a magical hammer, which does all the building for you. So it'll build the frame, all of it. It'll do the building for you. The rest is left to you. Rachel is eyeballing a magic paintbrush, which will do all the decorating, but the rest is left to you. So you have to build it and have it ready, and then the paintbrush will go through and decorate it, paint it, blah, blah, blah. And they can't decide which one to get, and they start bickering, and they start fighting. And instead of calling their mom, like in the original version, they're going to talk with the fairy. And the fairy is going to explain to them that when it comes down to it, they're going to have to make a compromise. There has to be something in the whole entire Fairy Stop that would meet both of their needs. So find it and find a compromise. And so they end up, they're looking around, they're trying to think of anything that would help them both out. And they come across a magic drill. And what the magic drill does is it'll build everything for you, but it'll also hang up stuff for you. So all you have to do is go buy the pictures or whatever it is that's going to be hung up. It'll build it and also decorate by hanging up things. So they decided to go with the magic drill as both of their needs would be met. Rachel originally envisioned painting as a way of decorating, but once she realized that there was other means of decorating, she was able to make the compromise of getting the drill and hanging things instead of painting. And once Steven realized the drill could build two and not just a hammer, he made the compromise so that way they could both benefit. And the reason that I added the fairy to have like a magic character involved. And then like Fairy Stop, with it being magical items and trying to build a magic tree house, that's kind of like how I would implement the magical aspects to my story. And then instead of like obtaining food for dinner in the original story, they'll be obtaining tools to build a magical tree house. But like at the end of the day, the moral in both is still like compromising is key in relationships. Whether it's like dating relationships, sibling relationships, family, friends, any type of relationship, compromising is always gonna have to be done after a while. At some point, you're gonna have to compromise on some type of thing, and if you're so set in your own ways and you're not willing to see anybody else's, you can't compromise. So that is really the moral of both, and I feel like the values of both kind of stay the same too, with like compassion and love and equality, because they have compassion about figuring out a solution for both of them. They both love each other, so they care. They're siblings, they care about each other being happy. And then equality, they care about not just one person being happy, but both equally. And then I think that like the reason I liked the moral of the original version and I wanted to keep it and keep the same values is Grimm versions and Grimm tales, they normally portray like more of a moral regarding how you should treat others and go about life. And I feel like the morals and values of like compromising and love, compassion, equality, all of those things are kind of like the type of moral that Grimm would have wanted to throw out there in their stories. So that is why I added what I added and changed what I did, and how I got from a little fight over what's for dinner to a fight over what magic tool we're using for the